This first post from Truth Social. It's from Donald Trump. Despite the fact that Canada is charging the USA from 250% to 390% tariffs on many of our farm products, yeah, this is milk for sure, Ontario just announced a 25% surcharge on electricity of all things. Yeah, of all things. I think
things.
I saw a clip of Doug Ford gleefully emoting and on one of the news shows about how it's going to up the cost of electricity over $100 per household, of course, hurting the poorest people the most. I don't like when poor people are the battleground for politicians' bad ideas. And then Trump goes on to say, "You're not even allowed to do that because our tariffs are reciprocal. We'll just get it all back April 2nd." Now, how are we going to get it all back? Well, Trump goes on to explain again on Truth Social. We'll go to the next one. Based on Ontario, Canada placing a 25% tariff on electricity coming into the United States, I have instructed my Secretary of Commerce to add an additional 25% tariff to 50%. See, reciprocal. Base 25, reciprocate the additional amount on all steel and aluminum coming into the United States. This is an absolute catastrophe for the steel sector, because what's going to happen is they're going to source from other countries. And this is the Canada Post model. Annoy your customers so that they never buy from you again. Make yourself unreliable, as is the case with Canada Post. People are going to Amazon, FedEx, Purolator instead of Canada Post, who will just go on strike at a moment's notice. And this is what's going to happen to the Ontario steel sector, because Doug Ford has suddenly decided that he is the chief negotiator for Team Canada.
Yes, and let's not forget that the unions are heavily involved in these negotiations, especially as it pertains to Doug Ford. Like the amount of times we've seen Ontario, especially Ontario politicians and federal politicians, grandstand at steel plants with the union reps behind them. This is being driven top down by the federal government into the provincial government, using those
Yeah.
unions as a tool, and they are mishandling, like they are just shooting themselves in the foot, and then they're going to wonder why they can't run. Well, I wonder. They have absolutely mismanaged and honestly misread how America was going to respond to this. This is an absolute disaster for Canada. It
Yeah,
is
like,
wild.
and I don't know why they misread the situation, because Trump said what he was going to do every step of the way and why he was going to do it and what
Yes.
we needed to do to avoid the worst of it. Can we
Yes.
show that Truth Social post again, if you wouldn't mind?
Yeah, yeah.
Why would our
Why w
country, go ahead, whichever one of us can read it. Go ahead, Lise.
Why would your country allow another country to supply us with electricity, even for a small area? Who made these decisions and why? And can you imagine Canada stooping so low as to use electricity, PS, in winter, so
Yes.
that it affects the lives of innocent people as a bargaining chip and a threat? They will pay a financial price for this so big that it will read in the history books for many years to come. And I dare say that Donald Trump is telling us the truth in this. And like you said, Sheila, it is the craziest thing. He has not been secretive about the way that he is going to do this. He has not been secretive about his asks and his demands of Canada to clean up our border situation, to clean up our fentanyl situation. And you know what we don't hear Doug Ford saying? I'm making sure the border is secure. I'm making sure that fentanyl isn't getting in on our side. You don't hear him saying that. Like, this is just wild what's happening in Canada right now. It is wild. Like, if ever you've called it into question the intellectual capabilities of our elected politicians, like, now is a moment that they're showing us, like, oh my god, a bunch of buffoons, Sheila,
Yeah.
buffoons.
The part that gets me most is that, again, Doug Ford, I'm with Trump on this. Like, I hate tariffs. I hate the tariff war. I know it doesn't have to be this way, but to use the poorest people, the people who
Yes.
can least afford this, as a cudgel, a political cudgel, it's the same reason I have such a horrible disdain for the carbon tax, is because it
Yes.
punishes people who can least afford it. And this is Doug Ford. Uh, what outlet was he on there? Can we show that again? Well, we'll show the whole clip, but
on yeah, MSNBC, yeah.
MSNBC. So he goes to speak to the Democrats on the Democrat Broadcasting Network. I mean, he's speaking directly to the Kamala voter. Not a great place to plead your case, but also probably the only people in the United States who might agree with what he's doing. So let's hear this.
And joining us now is Doug Ford, the premier of Canada's most populous territory, Ontario. And Premier Ford, as we mentioned, President Trump is now saying he is enacting a 50% tariff on steel and aluminum from Canada, which will go into effect tomorrow in response to your actions. What's your reaction?
Well, Anna, first of all, thank you for having me on. I start every interview with saying we love Americans. I love Americans, spent 20 years of my life there. And I know Canadians love Americans and vice versa. In saying that, we will not back down. We will be relentless. I apologize to the American people that President Trump decided to have an unprovoked attack on our country, on families, on jobs, and it's unacceptable. Let's work together. Let's get to the table if he has issues, and let's sort this out. You see the market tumbling. Consumer confidence is down. And if he continues on with this, assembly plants in Michigan will shut down and around the country, whoever makes autos. And as well as businesses, they're going to hurt. And these pensions, when the market goes down, it's going to affect people's pensions. So I'm not too sure why he continues to attack his closest friends and allies. But we need the American people to speak up. We need those CEOs to actually get a backbone and stand in front of them and tell them this is going to be a disaster. It's mass chaos right now. That's what we need.
Well, he'll have a chance to hear from those CEOs today, as we just mentioned. If you're talking de-escalation at this point, what would it take for you to remove that surcharge on the electricity coming into the U.S. from Canada?
Well, doubling the tariff on aluminum, that the U.S. only can manufacture 16% aluminum that they need. The balance, for the most part, comes from Quebec, over 65%. It's going to hurt your manufacturing. You need the aluminum. You need our high-grade nickel. And I want to send more high-grade nickel. You need our electricity. You need the 4.3 million barrels of oil that gets shipped down. I want to make sure we build an AMCAN fortress, the two greatest countries in the world. Fighting like this does not make sense. But I will respond appropriately on the electricity. Stay tuned.
So what does that look like? What are the potential responses?
Well, we'll see. I'll talk to the team and we'll make an appropriate response to President Trump. Again, I stress, this is not the American people. Canadians know it. And if we go into a recession, it's self-made by one person. It's called President Trump's recession, which shouldn't be this way. We should be booming, both countries right now.
Have you and your team talked with President Trump or members of the White House since the beginning of all of the tariff back and forth, specifically since you had implemented this 25% surcharge on electricity coming into New York, Minnesota, and Michigan?
I've talked to the three governors. I've also talked to Secretary Lutnick and President Trump. You like the guy, you don't like him, they understand. They're business people. And for this to be unrolling and putting the whole country and Canada into a potential recession over what? He should be focusing on China. He should not be focusing on his closest neighbor and ally.
Except he's going to buy from China now because of a 50% tariff he just slapped onto Ontario because they thought they would retaliate and use the poorest people of the Northeast as the battleground for their tariff war.
Oh, and this is the steel belt in America. These are good, hardworking people. Just think of like the Pennsylvanias, the Rochester, New Yorkers, those sort of gritty Northeastern Americans. They're going to suffer the most. But I honestly, I find myself bristling even watching Doug Ford with his Canada is not for sale banner behind his head, while everything he's talking about are our products that are for sale. Like, this might be the most mishandled, mismanaged foible that any of us have ever witnessed in Canadian politics, what Doug Ford just said there. And what he said about this trade dispute being unprovoked. It was provoked by Canada, Doug. We are letting terrorists into the United States. We are letting fentanyl into the United States. All they asked for was that our borders and that our fentanyl problem get solved. And I don't hear you talking about those two things at all. This is crazy. This is crazy.
I know. And
sorry, Olivia, go away from me for a quick second. Excuse me. Thank you.
Oh, geez, Lise is fighting a cold. Okay, we've got a tweet here from Watcher Guru. It says, Justin, President Trump says all tariffs in Canada will disappear if they become our 51st state. And I said, guys, I need the source of that. Well, wouldn't you know it, it's Truth Social. Donald Trump posted on Truth Social, he said, the only thing that makes sense is for Canada to become our cherished 51st state. This will make all tariffs and everything else totally disappear. Canadians' taxes will be very substantially reduced. They will be more secure militarily and otherwise than ever before. And there would no longer be a northern border problem. And the greatest, most powerful nation in the world will become bigger, better, and stronger than ever. And Canada will be a big part of that. The artificial line of separation drawn many years ago will finally disappear, and we will have the safest, most beautiful nation anywhere in the world. And your brilliant anthem, O Canada, will continue to play, but now representing a great and powerful state within the greatest nation that the world has ever seen. So whatever you think about Trump joking, musing, now potentially threatening to take us over in a tariff war, have you ever heard a liberal politician talk about us as cherished and beautiful the way that Trump does? You're muted.
Sorry. Am I back? Can you hear me
You're
now?
back. Yep.
Yeah, never. They have never, ever referred to us as cherished, as beloved, as people that they value. Because the truth is, Canada, we are not valued by our politicians. We are viewed as feudal serfs by our politicians to do their bidding, to do the hard work, to do the heavy lifting so that they can go spend our money on their pet projects. Nothing has been more stunning. And I would say this isn't a threat by Donald Trump. This is a promise. He is now digging into Canada as the 51st state. And I, for one, look forward to it. Look forward to it.
It feels as though we are being courted by a suitor. You know, like there are two men vying for our attention. We're the cute girl in the middle, and one is like, well, you can stay with me and you got lots of taxes and the carbon tax and, cost of living is a nightmare. And then the other guy's like,
yeah, we can call you genocidal. We can call you racist. We can call you bigots. We can call, we have one abusive boyfriend. Okay. And the other one, boyfriend. And the other guy is the guy's like, I'll provide for you, baby. I'll provide for you. There is nothing. There, you are gorgeous. My God, you deserve the best things in life. You're going to have more money than you can spend. I'm going to support you in your dreams. Like what is not to love here?
Right.
We're gonna marry. Okay, we're gonna marry the good guy. We're done with abusive, toxic relationships with our politicians here in Canada. We're done.
Well, and that's the thing. If the Liberals if they really want to court us, quit talking about us like we're garbage. Take a cue. Take a cue from President Trump and start talking about us like we're beloved. It might change our attitude.
Oh, hi, it's Ezra Levant here in Toronto with an important message because we need your help. Independent journalism in Canada is under attack. Government censors, big tech deplatformers, and the dying legacy media are all working together to maintain exclusive control on the information you receive. They don't want you to hear other voices like ours, and they really don't want you to be informed and to think for yourself. That's why the work we do here at Rebel News is so important. Our on-the-ground reporting, independent news shows, and special content you won't find anywhere else. It's all designed to give you trustworthy information and alternative viewpoints so you can decide for yourself. We don't get government money, And we are not owned by some big global conglomerate. We're funded by people just like you, so please support independent journalism and help us continue our work by subscribing and becoming a Rebel News Plus member today, right here on the page. Go to rebelnewsplus.com.